Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Prime Business. I am Pius Kojobaka. Ghana could lose up to $21.3 billion in economic value and as many as 435,000 jobs over the next 5 years if urgent policy action is not taken to counter intensifying competition from neighboring countries. And we have more for you in this report.
Ghana risks losing up to $21.3 billion in economic value and as many as 435,000 jobs over the next 5 years if urgent policy action is not taken. This warning comes from the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana following Benin's launch of an aggressive investor attraction strategy aimed at manufacturers across the West African sub-region. In a media statement dated February 9th, the chamber indicates that Ghana is already losing ground, with factories relocating or scaling down operations in favor of countries offering lower taxes, cheaper electricity, and faster business processes. According to the Chamber's technical analysis, between 395 and 555 factories could relocate or shut down between 2026 or 2030, with agro-processing accounting for about 40% of the affected facilities. The Chamber also projects between $4 and $6.6 billion in foreign direct investment could be diverted from Ghana, alongside declining tax revenues and rising unemployment. It warns that the situation is no longer theoretical, pointing to ongoing factory closures and the migration of skilled professionals.
The Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, is proposing power sector reforms to deal with some systemic challenges that have crippled the effectiveness of the Energy Sector Levy Act, despite several amendments by governments in the last decade of its implementation. The think tank has noted structural problems hindering effective management, noting how its securitization and indefinite extension have caused a failure to service the principal energy sector debt. Policy lead for climate and green transition at ACEP, Dr. Charles Ofori, says there is urgent need for necessary interventions.
ESLA came in 2015 and it's been about 10 years, has gone through a lot of amendments and the recent repeal and then the consolidation and then the addition of levies. You could see also that it went through a lot of changes, even in terms of management. I applaud the transparency around reporting and for us to see what funds or how the funds have been used for and how the funds have been allocated, where it has been allocated. But I think that it's falls short of addressing various systemic issues that plague the power sector, which we need to really do a good reform out of it. I've seen some interventions that are coming from governments around procurement and other key interventions within the sector. But I think there's more room for improvement, and it gets to show that some of the issues that we've raised around the management and then the allocation of funds around ESLA still begs a lot of question around how maybe the ESLA PLC and those other issues introduce a lot of costs around the management of it, and we are happy to see the consolidation of the funds into one window to deal with the how do you call it, with the debts and then the shortfalls management of it.
Now, Chief Executive of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, Dr. Rivesing Opong, is renewing calls for government to develop a plan for energy sovereignty. According to him, Ghana and other African countries have the advantage to use their existing resources to advance sovereignty in energy to support industrialization. Here's more in this report.
The lecture aims to enlighten the public on the global policy and the need for energy transition and sovereignty. According to the Chief Executive of the Chamber for Oil Marketing Companies, Dr. Rivesing Opong, Africa requires substantial investment in the sector in order to transition to sustainable energy. He believes that a deliberate plan by various governments will accelerate the course for sovereignty in energy.
Africa has a long way to go as far as energy security is concerned, and I think that's what we've been preaching for some years now. But it's high time we really consider the importance of energy sovereignty. And all that we are seeing around this is that being sovereign as far as energy is concerned, that you owning your source of energy, you owning how you produce it, and you own how you even utilize it. And that is what we've seen today into this lecture, how the Asian market, the American market, and also even the European market, in terms of energy, portrays.
He also used the occasion to make a case for cleaner forms of cooking rather than the use of outdated traditional methods, which has become harmful to many women.
I also touched on clean cooking because, you know, one of the components of the energy transition in a global space is, has to do with the death coming from the CO2 emission. But we also want to say that there are 3-4 times more deaths coming from unclean cooking, unsafe cooking in Africa, which probably nobody won't talk about it. And at the same time, probably in Asia, India specifically. And if you have access to energy that you produce, if you have access to energy that you own and utilize, all this will be a question of yesterday.
The lecture was hosted by the Ghana Energy Media Group. It also assembled international industry experts for a panel discussion on the issue.
Away from the energy sector, Guinness Ghana is partnering with local farmers and suppliers to ensure more local content in their production from this year. And this is expected to spur more growth and support job creation. Speaking to Joy Business at the New Year's cocktail organized by the Chamber of Commerce and Industries France Ghana, Head of Corporate Affairs at Guinness Ghana, Rastinta Opari-Saforo, hinted that more of such partnerships and collaborations are needed to promote the country's business landscape.
Guinness Ghana has pioneered this, and 70% of our liquid is sourced locally, which would be the sorghum. So we work with over 30,000 farmers through aggregators, and imagine that as we are sourcing this, the farmers may be 30,000, but then the impact is more because then they have families that depend on them and all of that. Besides that, there are parts of our product itself, be it the crown corks or the wrap, the shrink wraps and all of that, which we source locally as well. So when it comes to sourcing locally, I can say Guinness Ghana is one of the main companies that lead the charge.
How do you see 2026? How are you gonna maneuver the business environment, partnerships and all that? Just tell us something briefly. Okay,
so I can say for a fact that 2026 looks interesting. It looks pretty much stable, and we see a lot of interest in collaboration, be it governments, be it even local partners, be it industry-wide. We see a lot more collaboration than competition, and so it looks exciting. And if we keep the pace, looking at all the abolishment of the tax and all of those things, we're looking to having a good year. So let's keep collaborating like we are doing now, and see what the opportunities are for the business landscape. Yeah.
You think the business environment is a bit okay now for you guys?
When I wouldn't say, we've had turbulent times, and this is not as compared to those turbulent times. So I wouldn't say we're out of the woods, but it's also not all gloom and doom, but we're good.
That's it for Prime Business. Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kujobaka. Prime Source is next.